everyone. My name is John Adams from Keysight Channel Enablement. Today, I'm joined by Ciprian Negriescu from our professional services team who focuses on technologies and services that we have available for you. So today, we're going to be speaking over the Keysight Cyber Range solution. Inside this solution, we're able to emulate, educate, and evaluate you into success. So that means we're going to create the most realistic environment. We're then going to ensure that we can educate ourselves to understand how the attacks come in and how to use our solutions to protect ourselves. And then we can thoroughly evaluate our position of how is our cybersecurity and how well can we manage today's hackers and attacks as they come in the most professional way possible. So right now I've got Ciprian on screen. Ciprian, please take it away, sir.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ciprian Negriescu. I'm the support and services technologies expert on Keysight, covering, as John mentioned, all the, let's say, pre-sales for the professional services. And today, I'm here to talk to you about our cyber range solution. A little bit of background on our solution. There are continuous challenges in the industries. So the average cost of data breach in 2020 was 3.86 million, according to our IBM and Phenomenon Institute. And customers are facing a lot of challenges. They are dealing with shortage of SOC training and experience in the actual attack. That means the cybersecurity team are working in silos, so there is no collaborative incident approach. Also, Digital Business Initiative introduced organization into a new cybersecurity risk that traditional cybersecurity teams are not prepared to address. Cybersecurity teams are operating in silos when developing and implementing policy and processes, failing to treat cybersecurity as a collaborative and compressive effort. And the result of this are some awareness gaps in the organization. And for this one, training is most, let's say, needed. Moving further, Keysight Cyber Range solution provides a control environment for the security personnel to gain hands-on experience on the cyber skill and test their organization security posture. We have our cyber range solution have a three-stage approach: emulate, evaluate, and educate. Emulate means know your adversary and the common unusual security threats. For this emulation, we use our security traffic generator, which is called Breaking Point, which is the #1 leader traffic generator from the market. On evaluate means the ability to evaluate, to document, and to react fast in the real world simulation and when mimic the security breach. And educate, education is very important, is a continuous training in a wide range of cyber attacks and cyber threat scenarios. Our Keysight solution benefits can come on multiple pillars. So starting from the customer objective, foster the security skills and competencies. Security teams can train in the range environment where they can practice, detect, response, cyber security, realistic exercise. Another objective is to improve individual team preparedness for the cyber attack. In the face of potential incidents, the security team's preparedness is essential to prevent loss of customer revenue and reputation. So by using our Breaking Point, our traffic generator, we can simulate real-world attacks by emulating legitimate application, but also injecting different malware and DDoS. To test the new security technologies and methodologies, by doing this before putting an application into the production, the need to test in a range environment, in a secure, isolated environment, without harming the production it's a need. Our cyber range solution includes the following components. Mainly to talk about our cyber range is purely software, so it's software based. And here, usually we go together with the channel partners and in the cyber range project. And for this one, we can bring more value for them by bringing on their own third-party, say, hardware, software needed for this solution. So mainly our cyber range solution is hosted on a private cloud infrastructure, and can be this infrastructure will be dimensioned according to the number of users, the number of scenarios, and so on. So what's included the elements of the cyber range solution are the cyber range security operation platform, which is the core intelligence of our cyber range, includes an orchestration engine, which talks directly to the hypervisor, virtualization hypervisor. This is act as a management platform, also is managing all the scenarios, the learning content function, the backup of the solution, the logging, and so on. For the traffic generator, we use Breaking Point. Breaking Point is most of the scenarios are using Breaking Point as a traffic generator because we have the ability to emulate over 60,000 malware or attack from the market, more than 100 evasion technique, DDoS from volumetric to layer 7 and so on. On the tool side, our cyber range solution works from day one. We provide open source tools inside, like for the CM, next generation firewall, but here we don't want to be vendor locked. So in building a cyber range solution can be tailored to a customer need. That means you can bring in any next generation firewall, CM, IPS, WAF, or other forensics of other types of tools, and we can integrate it easily inside the cyber range. Our core intelligence are on threat scenarios. Threat scenarios it's a library of predefined and custom scenarios. This library of scenarios are well documented in the same way, and I will show you in a few minutes in a short demo. The idea of the scenarios is and the learning content function is for the experience of the user to go smoothly and quickly on the documentation and perform from one end to another the same methodology of solving the cyber scenarios. Our professional service teams can provide consultancy services and training services. Consultancy services can be for deploying for bringing in any third-party, let's say, security tools. That means if you can bring your own CM, your own WAF, as I mentioned earlier, and we can give you these services and the best advice to be integrated, and we can also help you on the documented and create the scenario workflow. Our cyber range architecture includes, as you see on the top, includes our cybersecurity operation platform, which is designed let's say, the first point of accessing our platform. The users which are accessing the platform can play scenarios for red team and the blue team. The red team are the attacker, the hacker team. We have scenarios for the hackers. We have scenarios for the blue team, for the defender team. That means scenarios more focused on the security tools, how to configure proper ruling the firewall, how to configure, how to follow from the firewall to a CM a threat and attack, and also the white team, which is acting as an administrator of the platform, and say the team which are provisioning all the access and the scenarios for the users. As I mentioned, our cybersecurity operation platform includes the orchestration engine, includes the trade scenarios, includes the scoring for each of the scenarios, the virtualization management, the backup, and the audit and loads. For the security monitoring tools, we have rebuilt it. Let's say we use open source CM in our standard scenarios, but they can also be enhanced and customized with another, let's say, CM from the market. On the security tools, we have we can bring in any tools, security tools, and create a scenario for it. Also, we have a virtualized scenario client OS pool and a virtualized server pool. That means we can we have predefined templates for different client OS and server OS, and we can bring it in creating the scenario. And mainly our traffic generator, which are the starting point of generating, let's say, malicious traffic and emulating botnets and so on. So now I will switch to a quick demo. Okay. About our CyberRange platform. Entry point on the CyberRange platform is our cybersecurity operation platform. This is mainly a web-based application. Once we access the platform, okay, it will pop up the scenarios available. This is a white team interface, the administrator interface. So I will start with some functionalities and a few main features of our solution. So mainly we have a license manager included, which for, let's say, CyberRange solution can be a subscription and can be bought in a subscription or perpetual model. We can have some we have an administrator tool, and we include also an automatic backup system. And for the scenario library, so as I mentioned, everything is hosting on a private cloud platform. First of all, in order to see the computing resources, we have to integrate our CyberRange with the hypervisor. We can, as you see, we have added the Proxmox KVM, but we also have a roadmap of VMware and OpenStack. Once we go on the cluster settings, we can see any machines that are running on the virtualization cluster. So mainly, as you see, I'm switching to the Proxmox hypervisor. As you see, with the green are the machines that are already running, and in gray are the machines that are saved as a template on the platform. On the active session, we can see active users on the platform. For each user, we can see which scenario are starting, what are the machines that are running instantly, and we also have ability to stop the user scenario as normal user scenarios. Let me start the scenario. So on the scenario library, we have a pool of scenarios that each user can access in. This pool of scenarios includes different threads that are usually on different exercises or different threads that are on the, let's say, focus, that are on the latest threads on the market. We can start by displaying the scenario. We can see the architecture of CyberRange. So the most important thing in our architecture is that everything can be customized. So any scenario, we don't use the same architecture for all of the scenarios. So any scenario, each of the scenario has its own architecture, its own virtual machines that are displaying this architecture. As you see, for this scenario, for example, it's a blue tag, so It's for a blue team. It also involves a CM, next generation firewall, BPS, and so on. So any of the scenario have this review of documentation. On the documentation, we have the learning content function, as I mentioned earlier. So we build this documentation for each of the scenario in order for the user to have the same experience by passing through the scenario. Once I start the scenario, the deploy, as you see, a status bar of the deployment is showing on the upper side of the screen. If we go on the virtualization, the orchestration from the cyber range are talking with the virtualization infrastructure and start deploying these gray machines, the cluster, we can see the progress of now are starting the machines. So in a few seconds, as you see, the machine are already deployed from the template on the virtual hypervisor, and the machines are up and running. Once we deploy a scenario, we have this tenant ID, which is tied to the IP address. This tenant ID, it's very important because this is tied to a specific VRF. So because all the users can use the same scenarios in parallel for these multi-tenancy features, or they can use different scenarios. So this tenant ID creates a separate VRF, and in this VRF, all the users are logically isolated. On the diagram tab, we can find all the, let's say, the machines that are deployed, and also the IP address and credential for all machines inside the scenario. So this is an admin view. For also for a user view, as you see, I'm switching to a jump host where I have a user interface. A scenario is already started. So once I go inside the scenario, I have the possibility to start accessing machines inside and to play the scenario. So now I can access the IP of the breaking point, and I can start playing inside the scenarios. So any user who starts a scenario can connect and start having a full traffic generator of them. Because this is a virtual solution, all the user will have their own traffic generator, their own firewall, their own CM, and so on, and all of this can test our, let's say, can follow our predefined documentation. Just to give you a quick walkthrough to our scenario, I will just go quick our documentation. And here, this is a fancy bear APT-28 attack. This is associated with the Russian Military Intelligence Agency. Recently, NATO was attacked by APT-28, so this is a spear phishing technique. Inside the scenario, as you see, we can. We are talking about the context of the scenario, the resources. These are some IPs that will be emulated by our breaking point from different, let's say, regions or countries. We have a detailed information about this APT-28, and also we will start preparing our breaking point, preparing the setup for each in order to be faster on preparing the scenario. We have some pre-built configs with some breaking point configs with real malware. So By using breaking point, you can use the real malware with the real payload that can detonate. And going through the documentation, you can run step by step, assigning the port, generate an attack, analyzing the pickups, and so on. Go to the firewall, configure the policy, and then go to the CM and check the evolution of the attack. So now let me switch back to the admin interface. So as I mentioned on active session, we can see the scenario session management. And here we have the possibility to stop the scenario. Once we click on stop the scenario, as you see, you will see quickly our hypervisor, these machines turn to gray and they will be forced shutdown and then erased from the virtualization platform. And in this way, we can release the resources and save the computing power consumption. What we can do, we have the ability to, beside our standard scenario, we have the ability to customize the scenario. So customizing the scenarios, we have a scenario editor. So for this, we have let's say three editors. One is the VLAN editor, so we can create, we have predefined segments of the network, but you have the ability to add your own VLAN or your own private LAN segment. The template inventory, we have the ability to import any virtual machine that can be saved on the platform, and this from this template we can use this machine later on the scenario. And in the scenario, we also have the scenario editor, so we can import some scenario predefined with the predefined topology, diagram, and so on, or we can start by building a new scenario. Okay, we can see the classification of the scenario. We can put the level. We can also upload some PDF in the documentation. We can create a quiz. We can put the different flags that can be found inside the scenario, or we can add the different templates. So, for example, if I'm choosing a virtual machine template, and let's say this is a firewall, and we can even have the possibility to define some computing resources for this machine. And say this is a firewall machine. Okay, I can choose a segment and a segment on one interface, and on the other interface I can choose the access. Then I can add another template. I can choose another machine. Let's say this is an attacker, and say okay, and this choose the same segments. On one interface we can choose the global segment, on the other one the access segment. Then on the diagram preview, as you see, our orchestrator inside can also connect all the components, all the segments, and in this way you can design your own topology and build your own scenarios. And the hard part in designing a CyberEdge is not building the scenario, it's just building the proper workflow and documentation for the scenario. So the idea is that this platform can evolve in the future with new scenarios, and you can create your own custom scenarios, or our professional service team can deploy scenarios for us. So this CyberEdge solution can come in two flavors. One can be a subscription, the other one can be perpetual with support. once you have the subscription or perpetual under support, you will have access to our, let's say, in each release, we will enhance the database of the scenarios with the latest threats that are on the market, and you can have access to more exercises inside your CyberEdge. And this platform, these scenarios will work from the scratch. Now, moving back to our presentation. So, why to choose Keysight? Because we have the ability to have real-world simulation. We use Breaking Point, which simulates more than 490 real-world application protocols and supports more than 60,000 attack and malware. We have a multi-tenant architecture. So as you saw earlier, we have the ability for the user to run the same scenarios or to run multiple scenarios in parallel. And the only, let's say, limitation is designing properly the computing and the virtualization infrastructure accordingly to support the number of users and scenarios that can play in parallel. We are tool agnostic. That means we tailor our scenarios on open source, but we have the ability to integrate any tool from the market from any security vendor. The next generation firewall, WAF, CMs. We also have the ability to integrate different use cases for different, let's say, from different markets. For example, for a government agency, maybe they want some scenarios with some forensic tools that can be introduced inside the CyberEdge. A service provider might want some, let's say, packet core or 4G or 5G core emulation, and we can also have some other tools that can emulate a full packet core emulation, and we can also build some security scenarios for them. And maybe some oil and utilities company wants some OT or IoT scenarios, and also we have the ability, and also we have inside Breaking Point the ability to emulate different OT protocols. So this gives us the flexibility of our CyberEdge to be tailored according to the customer needs. Why choose Keysight? Because we have over 15 years experience in security testing. We also have leadership with our Breaking Point, and we are best in class in remediation recommendation. And the intelligence inside our CyberEdge, mainly in our security products, is also the Keysight application and threat intelligence team, which is the team which brings together all and creates all these database with bi-weekly updates, the latest malware on the market. And when I say latest malware, that means these are some malware with real, they are payloads with real malware. So if you generate, let's say, an attack with Breaking Point, is the same as you have an attack on real life. If you generate a crypto with Breaking Point, that crypto can go on your network and can be detonated and encrypt your system. So this is all. Thank you. John, back to you.
Okay, Ciprian, thank you very much for that presentation. So I think everyone can take away from this presentation that the Keysight CyberEdge solution is a solution that's adaptable to your needs and is a library of assets that will be available for you to complete either improving yourself, educating yourself to ensure you as a blue team operator, as just a scientist in the science, computer science that this is, can thoroughly understand how these attacks are being conducted and how to defend yourself in that situation. More so, it's an adaptable solution because it's going to be agnostic to the tools you have in the environment. We can plug and play as desired as you wish. And we'll further, as Ciprian said, make sure the scenarios match the needs of you in your market area or your segment of business, so that we can understand and ensure that you are ready to face the cybersecurity problems of today. So again, please reach out to your channel if you'd like to have another demonstration or a more focused demonstration on this product. We have a demonstration lab available in Bucharest that can maybe be reserved in a few weeks ahead. So please let us know if you have any interest. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much, Ciprian. Everyone, enjoy your day.
Thank you.